What's up, everyone? It's Bones here. If you like buying cards and wouldn't mind helping a content creator out, feel free to use my TCG player affiliate link down below. It doesn't cost you anything to do so, except maybe an ounce of kindness. Because of how splashable Lightsworns are, I didn't know how I wanted to format this video, so I decided to focus this one more on a purish kind of build. But the point of this one is to show the new cards and just how the deck kind of plays, and as the weeks come, I'll feature more variants on the channel. But with that said, we're going to start here with the Charge of the Light Brigade, and we're going to activate it milling 3, and we're going to end up milling our first new card, Wheeze, and I just want to go over it. It can be any Lightsworn that you mill here. You just need a Lightsworn in the graveyard for what we're about to do, and you can place one other Lightsworn card from your hand on top of the deck. Special summon this card from your hand. Then, send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. If this card is sent from the deck to the graveyard, you can target one Lightsworn monster in your graveyard except Wheeze. Special summon it. You can only use each effect of Wheeze once per turn. Now, we're going to continue here by using the effect of Charge, and then getting ourselves the Dragon, which is our second new card. If you have a Lightsworn monster in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, so that's why we needed the Wheeze in the graveyard, or really any other Lightsworn. But if this card is special summoned, you can send one Lightsworn card from your deck to the graveyard, except Dragonling. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Dragon monster with 3000 attack, 2600 defense from your deck to your hand, so basically Punishment or Judgment Dragon, and you can only use each effect of Dragonling once per turn. Now, because we have the Wheeze in the graveyard, we'll be able to use the effect of Dragonling, special summon itself out. We're then going to be able to send Felice off of its effect, and this will give us the ability to go either into a rank 4 or a Synchro 8, or even a Link 2 if you want to, but we're then going to go into our Minerva. We'll then be able to use the effect of Minerva here. Minerva reads, it takes 1 tuner plus 1 non-tuner monsters. Lightsworn monsters you control cannot be banished by card effects. You can only use each of the following effects of Minerva once per turn. If this card is synchro summoned, you can send Lightsworn monsters with different types from your deck to the graveyard up to the number of Lightsworn monsters used as this card's material. You can banish up to 4 Lightsworn monsters from your graveyard, send that many cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard. Now, we're going to continue here by using its first effect, sending 2 Lightsworn names from the deck to the graveyard, as we're going to use the effect of the Wheeze and the Felice in order to get 2 more bodies, reviving a second Felice so that we have an extra tuner. Now we'll go into our next new card, the Centur-ION, Oxycord, Oxilla, Godzilla, whatever you want to call it, and it takes 1 tuner plus 1 non-tuner monsters. Face-up cards in your spell and trap zone cannot be destroyed by card effects, and this is kind of cool because of how it pairs with Primera and it making it so that your Centur-ION or your monsters or whatever it is can't be destroyed by card effects. I forget which one it is. It's been a while since I picked up the Centur-ION cards, but you can only use each of the following effects of Oxilla once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can add 1 Centur-ION card from your deck to your hand. During the end phase, you can place one of your non-synchro Centur-ION monsters that is banished or in your graveyard in your spell and trap zone as a face-up continuous trap. Now, we're going to continue here by using its effect for the add of Trudea, and I would like to point out that playing the Trudea is completely optional, but I would like to show that you can play it, and we're going to then use its effect here, placing it in the spell and trap zone, getting the Primera, and you'll see that the Centur-ION monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, so that is what it is. And we're then going to be able to special summon out the Primera, use its effect in order to get ourselves an add for our next new card. This is the Centur-ION Gargoyle. It reads, you can send 1 face-up Centur-ION card you control to the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon Centur-ION Gargoyle for the rest of this turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can add this card to your hand. During the main phase, if this card is a continuous trap, you can special summon this card, then you can reduce its level by 4. You can only use each effect of Gargoyle once per turn. Now, this is a really cool card because it allows us to play this little engine like this, and you'll see what it's for momentarily as we're going to send away the Primera. Then we can go into our Crimson Dragon, and from here, we can use the effect of the Gargoyle, and you've probably seen this before with the Crimson Dragon and a level 12 on board. We'll go to the end phase, where we can then get our Primera back onto the spell and trap zone, giving us that little connection here with Primera and the Oxilla. Then at any point during our opponent's turn, we can use the effect of Crimson Dragon, targeting the Oxilla, get out our Hot Red King Calamity, then hopefully our opponent passes to us after that. Now, for this next combo, I want to show a different version of just Charge of the Light Brigade, except that this time we're going to have something that we revive off of Wheeze, and we're going to get ourselves the Dragon, and now we're going to revive the Garoth off of Wheeze. Now, this is something that I'm only showing because while I do not think it will see play right right now, with how much power creep the game goes through and the more support cards we get, there is a chance that if we do get a version of Lightsworn down the line that can revive stuff a lot easier, then Garoth may actually be a pretty cool card to play, because it also means that we'll be able to mill a whole lot more, but we're going to be able to use the effect of the Dragonling here, sending away the Felice. This will be able to trigger the Felice along with the Garoth, so every mill that I get here is just going to be a bunch of Imperms, Nibiru, going second cards, and just cards that really do not matter in the graveyard. So we're going to continue here by going into our Minerva, use the effect of Minerva in order to send the Wheeze and Felice for 2 extra monsters. This will also trigger the Garoth for 2 extra mills, as we're then going to be able to get ourselves into the Oxilla, use the effect of the Oxilla, which will be able to add us the Trudea, but we're then going to be able to use the effect here in order to get our Primera, use the effect of the Primera, which will special summon itself out, get ourselves the Gargoyle, and then from here we can use the effect of Gargoyle, sending away the Primera, and now we can go into our Crimson Dragon. And now with this, we can pass on to our opponent having the Hot Red King Calamity, and I would like to point out that with all the empty mills that we had here with the Imperms and stuff that I just put on the top of the deck so that it wouldn't dilute the combo, there's just a lot of potential other things that you can do, which include linking away your Garoth with a potential Felice or Wolf Mill maybe, but then having the access into SP Little Knight, Masquerena, and things like that. There's just a lot that you can do. Now, for this third combo, I want to get onto the test hands, and I'm doing so because a lot of Lightsworn is just randomized, and there's not a whole lot that you can do with a few cards, and I just felt showing full hand was better. So we're going to use the effect of Imsteady here, pitching away the Felice, and then from here we'll get a draw, as we're going to use the effect of Kingstark, pitch away the Primera, as we'll then be able to send off the Happy, use the Happy, or special summon the Happy along with the Imsteady so that we can go into the Vampire Zombie, and this will be able to give ourselves 4 more mills. So the reason why I like the Horus engine is because it gives you a more controlled way into milling and not having to rely on just seeing stuff. Well, even though you kind of do have to draw into the Horus engine, but it's just not relying on mills to get into other stuff. But we're now going to be able to use the effect of Wheeze here, bring back the Felice, as we're now going to link into the Cross Sheep, and this is where I'll be showing off the new cards with a whole bunch of bricks here. But we're going to use the effect of the Dragonling, as we're going to send away the Judgment, and now we can use the Judgment in order to get us into our second brick, the Judgment Dragon, and now we'll be able to go into our Minerva, use the effect of the Dragonling along with the Minerva, as we'll send away the Minerva along with Felice, and again, just getting a tuner on board level 4, that's kind of what you want, but we're going to then get an extra mill off of the Minerva, as we're then going to special summon out the JD, use the effect of the Minerva, which will be able to mill 4 more off of banishing 4 Lightsworns in the graveyard, and you do see that we hit a Wolf, which is really nice because it just means an extra body that we have to work with. And we're going to go into the IP Masquerena here. We'll then be able to go into our Oxilla, as we're then going to use the effect of Oxilla in order to get into our Primera, and it doesn't really matter here that you get the Primera because we have the Cross Sheep, and I just thought that was really nice. But we're going to special summon out the Punishment Dragon, go into our Enlightenment Dragon, and this is exactly why I said it didn't matter if we got Primera. Now we have the Cross Sheep in order to revive the Primera milled earlier. In order to use the Primera's effect, we'll then be able to add ourselves the Gargoyle, use the effect of Gargoyle, special summon it out, and now we have 2 level 4 tuners that we can normal summon just to go into our Crimson Dragon, and then pass on to our opponent with a full board of IP Masquerena that can go into something like Appaloosa or SP Little Knight with the Cross Sheep. You then have the Enlightenment Dragon, which maybe you won't use, kind of depends, but then there's the Crimson Dragon and the Oxilla, along with whatever else you may have in hand, the follow-up that you get from Kingstark. Now, for this final one, I wanted to show a test hand with the version that I will be featuring on the deck profile, and it's because I'm not playing all that Judgment Dragon, Punishment Dragon stuff, and I thought there was cooler ways to go about it, or more consistent ways to go about it, and we're going to start here by using the effect of Imsteady, pitching the Veiler, as we're then going to be able to get ourselves a draw, use the effect of Kingstark here, pitching another copy of Veiler. We'll then get ourselves access into the Zombie Vampire. From here, we'll then be able to get ourselves the 4 mills. So again, just as mentioned earlier, when you have access into the Horus engine, it just opens up so much more that you can do here. And especially being able to revive a wolf and a dragon is just crazy here. But we're now going to be able to send the Aegis, which is our next new card. And it reads, target face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of Lightsworn monsters you control. Negate their effects until the end of this turn. If this card is sent from the deck to the graveyard, you can set this card. You can only use each effect of Aegis once per turn. Now, we're going to continue here by getting getting ourselves the Wolf, use the effect of Aegis, which will be able to set itself, and we'll get back the Water Horus as we'll go into our SP Little Knight. Then the cool thing here is we can banish a card from our opponent's graveyard that we sent off of Zombie Vampire, as we're going to use the Wheeze now. We'll then mill 2 as we're going to end up hitting the Felice that we put from the hand into the deck, as we're going to go into the Minerva, use the effect of Minerva, as we'll send 2 monsters away, get 2 revivals off the Felice and the Wheeze. Into more plays here, as I'm going to go into the Legatia, use the effect of Legatia, and because we drew the dragon, this changes what we can do, because we haven't used the dragon from hand effect. This is kind of what I was hoping for here, as now I'm just going to go into the Omega, synchro away into the Crimson Dragon, and you see, if I didn't draw the Dragon of Lightsworn, and I didn't have a way to make the Aegis live, I probably wouldn't have done this and made a rank 4 instead, and just continued doing different stuff. But because we did get the dragon, we now have the ability to use the Omega, and we're going to put a card from our opponent's graveyard into the deck just to show, again, we don't really care about what's in our graveyard, and we can disrupt our opponent instead after using the Zombie Vampire. But we're then going to make our Aegis live by special summoning out the dragon, ending our board with the level 12 for the Crimson Dragon. We then have the SP Little Knight, the Dragonling with the Aegis for the Omni, and of course we have stuff like the Gargoyle still in hand that we can end up using. So with the combos out of the way, we can get onto the deck profile, where you just have a bunch of the Horus cards along with the 3 charges to max out on your consistency. You can play Terraforming if you would like to over something like Minerva, or even the Aegis if you do not want to play this, or maybe the Water Horus. Kind of depends on what you want to do. Now, I did choose to play a whole bunch of hand traps. You can potentially replace some of them with things like Eldo, Mudora, the Black Goat Lass. If you want things that you can pitch off of the Imseti, or just mill off of your Lightsworn cards, but I felt having going second cards was pretty important in my opinion. That said, I also would like to point out that if you don't want to play the Thrust and Talons engine because your own deck is really weak to Nib, you can play Crossout and Bloodbite instead. Then another cool thing about this deck is that if you do side out your Primera along with the Gargoyle, you can bring in things like Denko, because the one big difference with this deck compared to another version that I showed way back when I posted it on my community tab is that I don't have Lumina, and the reason for that is because we have a searchable normal summon for the Primera, so I just don't want that extra normal summon in hand so that we can just keep our Primera as the primary one. But then I also would like to go over the other options that we have here with the Solar Recharge. I decided not to play it just because it felt like overkill on the consistency, and I just wasn't feeling this card as much as I thought I would at the start. I felt like just having max access into your Lightsworn monsters, being able to pitch them off your Horus cards, it was just all much more consistent and much more in tune with what the deck wanted to do. With all of that out of the way, I'm just going to get onto the card by card, as I think I showed everything that I wanted to show with the pure build, or well, the quote-unquote pure build. And we have the 3 copies of Imseti, the 3 copies of King Sark, the 3 copies of the Field Spell, we then have the 3 copies of Charge, 2 copies of Wolf, 2 copies of Felice, the 3 copies of Wheeze, we then have the 1 copy of the Minerva, the 3 copies of the Dragonling, the 1 copy of Aegis, then have the 1 Happy, the 1 Water Horus, the 1 Gargoyle, the 1 Primera, the 3 copies of Nib, the 3 copies of Valor, the 1 copy of Talents, the 2 copies of Dust, we then have the 3 copies of Imperm, 1 copy of Goddess, which can be something like Apo or whatever else you want to go into, we then have the IP, the SP, the Typhon, the Zeus, we then have the Zombie Vampire, Dingirsu, we then have 1 Dweller. Minerva can also be number 41 if you don't want to play the Exceed Minerva. I just want to show that this is an option. But then we have the Hot Red King Calamities, we also have the Crimson Dragon, we also have the Oxilla, Legatia, we then have the 1 copy of Nerva, and then we have the 1 copy of the Lightsworn, or the 1 copy of Omega to round out the extra deck. Now, I didn't get to read over the Enlightenment Dragon before. It takes Judgment Dragon plus Punishment Dragon. Must be special summoned from your extra deck by banishing the above monsters, 1 each from your field and graveyard, which is important to note. You need 1 on the field and 1 in the graveyard. Per turn, quick effect, you can pay 2,000 life points, banish all other cards on the field and in the graveyard. Per turn, during your end phase, send the top 4 cards of your deck to the graveyard. If this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can add 2 of your banished monsters to your hand, Judgment Dragon and 1 Punishment Dragon. Then you can special summon both, ignoring their summoning conditions. So a card that didn't gain a whole bunch of popularity because it meant people had to play these, unfortunately, but still I think it's really cool how it works with the Minerva and the ability ability Minerva has to make it so that Lightsworn monsters can't be destroyed by card effects. Maybe one day there will be a use for this, but as for now, this is the way that I like the quote-unquote pure version. I don't think that there is a way to play the pure version without playing stuff like Chorus, unfortunately, just because it feels way too much like a glass cannon, and that's just how I felt it was. So for everyone who's made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching, and for the 700 plus subscribers. I truly appreciate your support, and now that we've monetized the channel, giving us access to supers and memberships means that more awesome stuff is on the horizon. To get the channel membership, just click on the description below, and there will be a link that takes you there. You'll also notice a free Discord link that I've made for us too. If you want to support me as a content creator, even if you can't donate supers or get a membership for the channel, clicking on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons help a lot too. For those wondering, I do plan on making updates to the channel as the support on the channel grows. Anyways, I hope to see you on the next one. It's Bones signing